Now the Muppets come up.
All right, hide everybody's audio.
You sure that all the wall cams and windows.
Good morning. Good morning to the 0 viewers out there. Yeah. Nobody's awake on us yet. Well, a lot of people retweeted my announcement, so you never know who might show up.
So we're starting today's workshop. First of all, welcome back. It's great to have you here, and today is going to be a little bit more hands-on. So I'm looking forward to getting your feedback also on what's going on, and to show you a little bit of what we've been doing more concretely. The first session is going to be about ANNIS, which is the search tool that we use to look through the corpora and kind of one of the end outlets of our process and what we do. After that, Carrie will be talking about how we produce these corpora and how they end up being online. But if you're looking to do searches through the corpora, probably ANNIS gives you the most comprehensive possibilities. To get to ANNIS, you just need to open a browser. You don't need to install anything at all. And the URL is the one you see on the board, which is corpling.uis.georgetown.edu/ANNIS with 2 N's /scriptorium. And the /scriptorium is important. If you ever forget that, you will get no anti-no. So everything will look a bit garbled. Scriptorium makes sure that it has the Coptic font installed. And if you're already there, what you'll see is this interface. So you'll see some example queries here. You'll see a list of corpora here. These are the Scriptorium corpora. And you'll also see a login button here. So if you're working on part of a development team doing a new corpus that's not publicly available, this is where you'd log in to put in your credentials to see something that's not yet out in the public. For instance, this big New Testament corpus was kind of hidden until recently we put it out. So now you can see it. So here on the left, you see our list of corpora, which are the same ones you see on our website as well. We have 3 coming from the Sahidic New Testament. We have 1 Corinthians and Mark that have been manually checked, or part of Mark. And we have the entire Sahidic New Testament, which has been automatically processed with the tools that we'll tell you about in the next session. We have some Shenouda texts that have been done up manually. So we have Acephalus Work 22 here, Shenouda 822. Abraham our father, and not because of fox barks here at the bottom. And some other texts here on top. We have a small collection of apophthegms from the Apophthegmata Patrum, and 2 letters by Besa. This is what we have publicly available right now. And if you want to see which texts are within these corpora, you can go on this document icon to the right of the corpus list. And you can have a look, for instance, let's look at the Apophthegmata Patrum. If you click this document button here, it will give you a list of the documents within this corpus. And you'll see that we have several APs. And these are numbered according to Shen's scheme. So AP 90 is Apophthegm number 90 in Shen's edition. And you can scroll through these. You can sort by their identifier number, I guess, then you'll get there. These are named after the repositories. So this is the Biblical Institute. This is the Austrian Coptische collection. This is the Orientalia, the British.
Nationalbibliothek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see where these things are coming from. If you want more metadata, you can also go to the display under the information button here. So here, actually for each document, you can get additional information. So if you want to know what AP 114 Theophilus is, more exactly, you can click the I button, and it will tell you that this numbering comes from Shen's edition, 1960. It's number 114 in his edition under the chapter Fragment de Naples. There's the page in that edition. For some texts, we also have the Greek source in KLG. We have who annotated this text, who translated it as well, I think, here below. And the author is anonymous in this case, the collection that it's in, and so on. You can also see the license, so this is put out under Creative Commons. That is possible because the text we publish is actually not Shen's edition text, but we have the diplomatic text of the actual manuscript, for which there are no intellectual property rights. So generally, our initiative or our ambition in this project is, whenever possible, to use manuscript text, because that allows us to put the work online with absolutely no copyright except for the Creative Commons license. Yeah, that's about what I have to say about the metadata. If you want to actually read the document, in this case, for this purpose, you're offered 3 options. You can read the diplomatic text, which emulates the appearance of the manuscript. So if you click diplomatic text, you'll see, oh, it was here. It started on line 8 of that particular folio and went on to line 10, 15, 20. And you see the layouting. So you see it had an ecthetic, capital, or large nu here with a superlinear stroke. You'll see that things are cut across line borders. So it's Makarios, and the P is on this line, and the Makarios is on the next. There's absolutely no attempt to preserve the word separation in diplomatic visualization. It's simply a substitute for seeing the manuscript. The reason why this is necessary is because the manuscript images are under contractual law not publishable, even though they're not intellectually protected as copyright. They're under contract law when you get them out of the museum, so you can't just put them online. But the diplomatic, so that's the reason why the diplomatic edition attempts to give you a very good reconstruction of what's going on in the manuscript. The other visualizations that you can see are more for either content analysis purposes or linguistic analysis. So the normalized text gives you really just the text in standard Coptic orthography. There are no longer any diacritics or combining signs. There are spaces between the bound groups according to style 3, as we learned from So yesterday, where almost all clitics are written together with the adjacent words. So if you can see here, here's the J Eshope with the J written together, or in Kipe Hello is together. If you hover on something, you'll see its translation. So tell the father one word that he may benefit from that. And the old man told them, if he does not always benefit from our silence, then if we speak, he will still not benefit. Or in other words, you should keep your mouth shut as a good monk. And if you're interested in doing linguistic work, you might be more interested in the analytic view that you can get here, which gives you kind of the part of speech analysis and gives you an interlinear translation. So this is really if you want to start if you don't read Coptic to the extent that you don't even need a translation or parts of speech, this can be useful for us lesser mortals who are not Sutru and who need to have a look at the parts of speech while we read and kind of get some help. So, but the brothers gathered and said to Abapambo, so you can see that here, this is a bound group, so there's a space. And between the constituents of the bound group, you'll get this vertical line. And above each constituent, you will get the part of speech. Okay? The brothers is article and noun and so on. About these parts of speech, I should say that there is a list of them on our website.
Before you go there,
Yeah.
do you want to maybe stop for a sec with the visualizations and the overview and see if there are any questions?
Sure.
If anybody wants to.
And interrupt at any point, just like holler. Questions so far? Anything?
I will have a question down the road about access.
Okay. Well,
This is all open access now.
Yeah.
So I could send students.
Yeah.
It's CC
Oh, yeah,
BY,
yeah.
and as you can see, you don't need a login, you don't need anything. So
Yeah.
Because
all
it
this
says not
stuff,
logged in, and
you're not logged in and you can see the stuff, right?
but I mean, I'm
a good
totally
sign.
not logged in.
But that's
so
not a
I'm
bug.
trying to decide whether I should try to log in. What'll happen?
If you were logged in, you could see possibly more corpora that are not yet publicly available. But generally speaking, this is not because we are secretly holding copyright material, but because we're not ready yet. So we're still testing. So the reason why we didn't put the Sahidica completely online was not because it's under a copyright that wouldn't allow that. It's because we were just not satisfied yet with the automatic analysis quality. And now we've decided that the error rate was low enough to maybe put it out here. And things are getting better, you know. So here under documentation, if you go to our website, which is copticscriptorium.org, actually no, it's under tools. You can have a look at
We need
our
to
part of
redo that
speech.
part.
Yeah. You can see our part of speech tagging guidelines here. And if you open that, you will get both the list of part of speech tags, but also very detailed instruction as to when they are assigned.
These are also in your zip file that you downloaded. For those of you who came late, I'll explain how to get that file later. But if you download it, these are also in your zip file.
Right. But this is where you would find out that nouns are called N and verbs are called V. And the ones that have a star after them mean that there are subcategories of that. And you can look at that under the fine-grained tag set. So for A, which is any auxiliary tripartite base, there are many variants of that. And if you go into the fine list, you will get, oh, wait, there's the aorist, and there's the limitative, and there's the optative, and there's the precursive. There's all sorts of special subtypes of auxiliary. But the complete list is here. I'll show a few of them when I do example queries in a moment. So these are the visualizations that you can get. And you get to them, just again as a reminder, by pressing the document button here, which gives you the list of documents for that particular corpus. And it opens up a special tab. A second thing that you can get in terms of information about a corpus is clicking the I button for that corpus, which gives you information about the corpus. And then you see it says, oh, this is now about the entire Apophthegmata Patrum corpus, that it is version 1.1 of this corpus, that these people were involved in the translation, and this is for the entire corpus now. To get the individual document data, you can again just switch to a document and see, oh, that particular document is in the Borgia collection, and so on. And on the right, what you see is the annotations included in this corpus. So this is a list of the annotation layers. And for each one of them, you get one prominent example of a value that is frequent. So for instance, there is a language of origin annotation for non-native words. And its most common value is lang equals Greek. So if you click on this, you'll see that this implants an example query here. So you can use that as an example for any one of these annotations. But of course, Greek is not the only possible value. The same here. Norm, the most frequent norm seems to be a phi. That's not very surprising. So norm F. But of course, you could search for something else. This is just an example that the system is giving you so that you can try it out. Right?
Sorry, what's norm stand for?
So norm is for normalized orthography. There's also orig for original, the way it was in the manuscript. Okay, so there's orig and norm. And unsurprisingly, both have the most frequent value, F. I'll talk about all of the annotation levels in a moment. Here you can see another one, morph, for instance, which is what we talked about yesterday with items that are smaller than what we consider to be a single word in the sense of part of speech. So verbs in if they don't take an article-bearing argument, like rhote, contain the morpheme, but the verb is considered to be rhote. So that is the thing that gets the verb tag, and the morph is under that. And so the most frequent one is in fact, it might have been mint. Mint is also one of these.
Can I just say, when you were talking about the different, I'm sorry to interrupt you here, the different corpora and the different documents. So just the way it's set up is that, you have a corpus like Basil's letters, or a corpus like the Apophthegmata. And within that, there are those little documents for each saying or whatever, or each manuscript witness. And then there's that metadata information about the corpus or about each individual document. So that's why there are those two eyes. They give, if I may be visualizing it, might make it easier to just see. There's two, so that that's how it's.
Yeah. So what exactly corpus and document mean is a little bit different in each project, but you can think of it as big project and sub project. So for the Apophthegmata, the project is the Apophthegmata Patrum, and each individual document is an apophthem. And you can see that there are 15. You can see this 15 here. For the New Testament, for instance, we took chapters to be the unit. So it's not each book, it's each chapter as a document. And so there are 259 chapters in total across the books of the New Testament in the Semitic version. And so you will get 259 individual documents, and you can see the metadata for each one of them. And you can also, I'll show you later, you can restrict your search by metadata from one document or a set of documents. Okay, so that was documents and metadata. If you start looking at the list of annotations per corpus here, you can see that there are different ones that you can search for. And like I said, these are generated automatically from the most common values. So for the Sahidica and T, which has punctuation, you'll get things like norm equals period, which is not very interesting. So that is the most frequent word form in the New Testament is the period. Of course not, not so
theological.
So for this reason, and so I mean, Sahidica is also an addition. It's not a manuscript. So one of the things that is sometimes more interesting is to look at example queries that we've formulated as humans. And so when you select a corpus and you're in the example queries area, as opposed to if you open the documents, it'll switch tabs on you. So don't let that confuse you. The other tabs are still there. It's kind of tabs within the browser tab. So in the example queries area, you can see examples for the corpora that are selected. So for instance, here's an example for the Apophthegmata. You can look for, I don't know, norm equals apa, or you could look for stative verbs. And if you click on one of these things, it will give you search results for that. Before I show those, let me also show what happens if you use these example queries. If you picked one of these, like say lang equals Greek, then again, it implants your query here at the top left, which is the search area, which we'll learn about in a moment. And then you just hit search, and then you'll get search results. And this is the same as pressing on the example query that also opens search results. Okay. So now we're in the query result area. This is kind of the second main area you need to learn about. Whenever you run a query in the ANNIS corpora, you will see a bunch of results, and they're in what is called a keyword and context view, meaning that the thing that you searched for is in the middle, in red, highlighted, and the things up to either side of it are called the context. So keyword and context, sometimes called quick also. And you can see how much context here. So there's 5 to the left and 5 to the right. And you'll also see that it's in terms of norm groups. So you're being shown norm groups 1 till 9 in this particular area of the text. Now,
That's what a norm group is.
yes, that was coming next. A norm group is the bound group of the normalized units. So the way that we do up our text is that there are kind of 4 basic places, possibly 5, where you'll find the text of the manuscript. And oh, can I erase these? So
The eraser.
for each, let's say you have a giant red alpha, and then sortem or something like that. And you have a superlinear stroke binding the T and the M together. Very specific, diplomatic kind of arrangement. This is a bound group. And if I were to separate this bound group into its constituents on the diplomatic level, I would separate it into A and sortem with a binding stroke. We call this layer orig for the original orthography in the manuscript, and we call this layer orig underscore group because it is the bound group of the original text. Okay, so orig group and orig. On top of that, of course, we don't wish to have to search for a binding stroke. We don't know how the sortem was spelled, right? It could be a superlinear dot, it could be nothing at all, it could be an epsilon, you know, it could be anything. So we also have a normalized layer that looks like this. Kind of standard orthography without any embellishments, any decorations. We call this norm group, and the version where the things are split up, we call norm. So in a typical corpus scenario, you will have these 4 things, right? And you can see that this is so if you go on to this menu here, base text. If you look at the base text, you'll see that you can switch back and forth between these things. So this is norm group right now is being selected, and you can switch to norm, and then things will split up. And then you'll notice that actually I just looked for lang equals Greek. The thing that actually matched my search was Makarios. But if I'm in bound group mode, then the only thing the system can tell me is, well, you know, within the group somewhere there's Greek. Yeah? It says Enhipe Makarios. Yeah? But if I go onto norm, I can see that it was exactly Makarios here. And if I switch to the original layers, I can also look at what it was spelled like. So this was a large nu with a superlinear stroke. This had a dot over shiet. And this was just a superlinear stroke over the keep. So you can switch back and forth between these. And also, if you're searching, there's a tab here called Search Options, and you can decide in advance, oh, I want to be searching in orig groups or in norm groups, however you like better. And the context to the left and to the right of each search hit will be in terms of that unit. So if you do left context 5 and right context 5 and context and norm group, you'll get each search result with 5 norm groups to the left and 5 norm groups to the right. Okay, the 5 before and the 5 after. This is sometimes useful because if you set this to be norm, then you could get half bound groups. So here, for instance, the 5th norm to the left of Theophilos is shiet, but that's not a bound group, right? There was some prepositional phrase there in an article, right? Like, for instance, eshiet or something like that. Or au here, can you see my cursor? Yeah, au, and then it ends. So that's not so fun. So you might want to have it in group mode when you're searching, if you're so inclined, but you don't have to. And you can also change context for individual groups. Say you want to know what was said before that, you can ask for more left context, and then it will extend that for you. Oh, I'm still in norm, sorry. Norm group. And you can ask for 5 more norm groups to the left. Oh, the reason why you don't get it here is because this is the beginning of the text. So this is norm group 1 till 9, so there is no before. But let's find one that's from the middle of the text. Here you can get more. Yeah, so now you get lots more, Akbok, Moish, and so on, and then finally the date, which is the actual search result here. And you'll see that you can get the same sentence twice if it has 2 Greek units. So these hits are really not sentences that you're finding, they are instances of a Greek word. So if there are 2 Greek words in a sentence, you'll get that sentence twice, once for each word, with different highlighting, of course. Okay, so those are kind of the basics of how to determine how much you're seeing when you're searching. Now, in terms of these things under the search results, you can look at different types of annotations. If you open up the grid here, you'll see the data model from which this is coming, which has all these annotations I've been talking about. So we'll have simultaneously the norm and the norm group and the orig and the orig group. And here you see that in Voish, in norm is normalized and separate. Here it's together. Original and separate, original and together. You'll see the page ID that it comes from. That's PBXML ID. That's page EG202. You'll see the line numbers. So LB for line break, and then N for the number. So this is line 8. This is line 9. CB for the column break. This is column 1. And here's some rendering instructions. So this letter is ecthetic. And this annotation here is what causes the diplomatic visualization to be ecthetic. And you can see that, if you'll recall, that was the one you got by pressing the document icon. You can also see it within your search results. If you just expand this, say, oh, this result was interesting, I'd like to see the manuscript. And then you'll see the ecthetic N here. This is the position that we were just seeing. And you can also see the parts of speech. So here is an auxiliary, a past auxiliary, personal pronoun, verb, afo. And you can search for all of those. So I think all of the corpora have this kind of grid annotation, but some of them have slightly different layers. So if you go to the Bible corpora, for instance, say Mark, you could just switch corpora and then hit search again, it'll do the same search. Then you'll see that Mark has a slightly different set of annotations. For instance, you don't have a diplomatic view. The reason for that is that we don't have the manuscript. Sahidica is an edition. So if you're on one of the Bible corpora, you can open the chapter view here, and it will give you something like, Bible verses. So verse 1 with the translation, and this has actually been automatically implanted from the so-called World English Bible. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. That's an evangelical translation that has, I think, the most liberal copyright of all Bible translations ever made, because they want everyone to have it. So if you're wondering about, oh, this is not King James, that's what it is. It says that in the metadata as well. So you can get at the metadata by clicking the I button of every result. This is the metadata for Mark chapter 1. And if you want the metadata for the whole corpus, again, it's here. And here we'll tell you that the translation is World English Bible. There'll be some link about documentation where this comes from, information about where Sahidica comes from, and so on. But you still get the linguistic analysis, because that is based on the part of speech annotation, and those exist for the Bible corpus as well. Yeah.
For example, for this New Testament corpus, you can just, for more metadata, link to the Münster database.
That's a good idea.
And you have the manuscripts and
that's a very good idea.
Yeah,
we should probably do that.
Yeah. And it's not all available. The virtual manuscript room is not, you need to log in, but you can always see something like this SMR database built up by Siegfried.
We should absolutely set that up. We should set that up, and I should learn how to predict the shape that will be for the link for each individual chapter. Yeah. Assuming there's a convention, that should be absolutely cool.
So he made a FileMaker Pro database, but for the website, it's transferred into MySQL.
Right. So on the ANNIS side, we just keep putting a link in. So you just need to tell us what to link each chapter to, and we'll just implant a link automatically. That'll be great. That'll be wonderful.
I will tell Siegfried.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes on these ideas as they come
Yeah,
up.
you do?
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now on to creating some slightly more complex searches. So you'll notice that, yeah, lang equals Greek, that's nice, but you can also look for individual words. And this will mirror what I've been saying about the different layers. You can type into this box yourself, and you can decide to look for norm or norm group. It depends on what you want to find. But let's look for norm. I think that's probably the easiest. And now the way that the query language works is you look for an annotation and its value. So you do norm equals something. And the something has to be in double quotes. And pay attention if you're writing things into a Word document or copy-pasting queries, not to use round or fancy quotes or lower. The chat needs to be the straight, boring computer quotes that appear on your keyboard. Okay, next to the Enter key, the really straight, boring ones. It has to be those. And here you can just input Coptic and Unicode. If you have the Coptic keyboard installed on your computer, that'll work. If you don't, just use the virtual keyboard here. So the virtual keyboard lets you input things. I don't know what we should look for. I don't feel so inspired. Let's look for Sultan. I'm sure there's a better
Look for
idea.
Nova. Look for Nova.
For what? Nova.
Nova.
So that
Would be a good one because then you can show
That's
contains Nova.
interesting. It's interesting if it's going to be in a norm or a morph. If it's the word Nova by itself, then this will work. If it's part of a word, then this particular search will not work. Then you will need to look on the morph layer.
Or you can do contains.
Let's do that in 1 minute. I want to first be without complications.
Yeah.
So we'll look for Sultan.
Yeah.
This also, by the way, will not find mint at Sultan. It will just find Sultan. It will find al Sultan because it's considered a word within, or it's considered a norm unit within Sultan. So that's the problem with Coptic. There are very many layers of segmentation. There's the mint layer. There's the mint at Sultan layer. There's the mint at Sultan.
Sultan, if possible.
So there are very many different
You can
layers
always
that you can search.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for norm equals Sultan, this will work out of the box. You just do search and you will get cases of Sultan. And again, because I picked norm group as my context, I get cis Sultan, al Sultan, instead of Sultan. And in all of these, Sultan is considered to be an individual norm unit, okay? Because this is a norm group and it contains multiple norms. And you can see that if you switch to norm and say, oh, it's Interef, Sultan, and so on. When you change to norm group, you see Interef, Sultan, it's just highlighted for you. Now, what Carrie was saying is true. You can use pattern searches for things that contain Sultan. And these use regular expressions. And when you use a regular expression pattern search, you no longer use the straight boring quotes. You use slashes. Okay? So norm Sultan in slashes is the same as norm in quotes. That will work too, but that's pointless. Usually you will want to do something like contains Sultan. And you can do that. It will be using dot star. So if you put Sultan dot star, it's anything that begins with Sultan. If you put dot star Sultan, it's anything that ends in Sultan. And if you put dot stars on both ends, then it's anything that contains Sultan. Okay? And remember that the dot star is always in that order. It's always dot star. It's not star dot because it's before. It's always dot star, before and after. And if you do that, you will get any norm unit that contains Sultan. And now you'll get not just cis Sultan, but maybe something more interesting. Do we get something more interesting? Well, there's 38 results. So you can flip through the pages here, and you can also make more results per page in the search options. You can ask for 25 results per page if you want. There's actually nothing interesting here. So there's a way to get only the interesting results, but that would require more complex syntax. What is this?
Are we showing all the weirdness of our?
Well, number 31 is Sultan Pisrael.
That seems to be a mistake. Simply.
Yeah,
It's just a wrong segmentation.
Where
That
they-
happens.
What are the object is?
Although, I mean, because it's not, but it's, yeah. It's interesting because it's
It's not a
transit.
phenomenal form.
It's,
I mean, it's imperative.
yeah, but it should still get A.
Yeah.
This is a very unusual, grammatically very unusual example, right? I mean, Sultan Israel.
You left out O here, O Israel.
No, it's Joyce. It's Hear Israel, O God. This is Shema Israel, isn't it? This is the prayer Shema Israel. So Hear Israel, Joyce. This is the definite vocative.
The
Joyce. This is a strange sentence, actually. So actually, arguably, maybe it should be written this way. I'm not sure. I'm thinking, what are the guidelines for joint object? So it's an object unmediated by n.
Yeah.
So technically, it should be written as a bound group.
Yeah.
It's bizarre, but it's correct.
I was gonna say, this vision of me sitting there for a long time with Chrome and a grammar.
So this is actually correct, surprisingly.
No,
It's a shock, really, Amir.
No. It's just at first I looked at it and this can't be right, but actually this.
So you did find it interesting.
Yeah, but that's not what I
Yeah,
meant, because
very
actually
nice.
you'll notice I didn't do norm group contains Sultan. I did norm. So the norm is actually still norm Sultan. The interesting stuff is happening at the group level.
There should be like ment atsotum somewhere in the Beza letters.
Oh, definitely. Base is full of that. So, so if you want to make sure it's not just Sultan, you can do a dot plus. And dot plus means at least one character. So dot star is nothing or something, and dot star is at least one character on top of the Sultan. If you do that, you'll get derivations from Sultan. That's the second thing I'll show you. So here's one. Mint at Sultan, yeah. Kind of predictable. And one thing that you can do if you want to get more of these is to just select more corpora. So you can multi-select. Let's do the manually annotated ones. We can also get Sahedica. Why not? So this will give us all derivatives that have prefixes before Sultan. And there are 73 in the corpora. Mint at Sultan, mint at Sultan, mint at Sultan, at Sultan. And here, so some of those Sahedica and T1s are just bad segmentations because Sahedica was automatically segmented. So if you want to have a more conservative search with ideally only correct results, you might want to take Sahedica and T out. I mean, this is good if you're willing to filter your results manually. Then you should use the Sahedica, the big Sahedica. Without that, there are only 4 actually. At Sultan, mint at Sultan. That's about it. So that's a basic in regular expressions. Another regular expression worth learning is a character range. So you can put square brackets and do 2 alternatives. So if you want, again, well, it's better with something like Sultan. So this will get you, for lack of a lemma layer at present, although that's in the works, you can get all the forms of Sultan like this. So give me Sultan and in brackets, either the omega or the omicron or the epsilon. And if you do that, you'll get Sotp, Sotpu, Sotp, Sotp, Sotpu, Sotpu. I don't know if there are any Setps. Setp, yeah, I Setp Teotin. You can see it here. I have chosen you. Allah, no, I Setp Teotin. So you can look for those using the regular expressions. Now, if you know that you are looking for something smaller than a word, you can indeed use the morph layer. So the morph layer is specifically for finding sub-word elements. So if you wanted all cases of mint, and you already know that mint is a sub-morpheme, then you can just do morph equals mint, and you'll get those. And there is no diplomatic layer for mint. Morph is always normalized and just covers the sub-word elements. It's easier to see if you look just at the norm. Mint. It's a good question why this one was done apart. Mint apotacticos. This is a mistake, for instance. Mint syncleticos, mint monachos, mint ro, mint mintre, mint snos. So there's lots of examples. And the same applies to the R, to the R, to the ref, at, and also compounds. So I'll show that in 1 second. The last thing I wanted to show in individual element searches is the translation. You can also search within the translation. And that annotation is called translation, and you just do equals. Now, you're not going to be able to predict the exact translation of something, and that's not interesting. What you want is the regular expression. And you can do something like, I don't know, contains dot star, brother dot star. Now you'll notice that this doesn't allow for capitalization. So often when you're looking through the translations, it's better to do capital B or lowercase b, brother. And now you'll get also translations where brother is capitalized or is the beginning of the translation simply. And now you'll get anything that contains brother in the translation, and there are 32 of those. And in these cases, because you're looking at a whole translated sentence, it might be a better idea to set context to 0, unless you want otherwise, but it's maybe a bit distracting, so I like to set context to 0 for translation searches. Then you just get the sentence you're looking for. And you see that because I put the dot star right after the R, I'm also getting plural brothers, right? So it's brother or brothers. You can also avoid that if you want. So you can do negative character ranges. I don't know if I should show that, but you can specify S, and if you put the caret before that, that means not an S. Please, not an S after brother. And you can also make that optional. So if brother is the very last thing in the translation now, it won't be found because you're demanding something that is not an S after the word brother. And if brother is the very last word, then there won't be a not as an S. So you can put a question mark after that. That means with or without this element. But if it can only be an S. So actually, that's not going to work, because if it's optional, this could be an S. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's probably you're just gonna miss cases that brother is final. To do the perfect query will be a bit more complex. I don't want to get into that. But this will get you in 99% of cases what you want. So now we can look at the translation. It's in the grid. A brother living in Kelia was alone and troubled. And that's the song here. And you can just look at different ways that the concept of brother is being expressed in these search results. If you want to just get the translations and not the Coptic text, I'll show you in a little bit how you export results, and there you can do that as well. But by default, the interface is set up to show you Coptic as the search result, not the translation. Another thing I should mention is that if you did some complex query and forgot it later, you have a history here. So these are the last 5 you did, and you can get a more details window. I just noticed that Coptic doesn't work in it. Which, can you write down, Carrie, that antino in the query history doesn't work?
Okay.
That should be good. And you can see the last 14 queries I did here. So this is a complete list, and here you just get the last 5. If you click the show more details, it will give you the complete history. And if you click on one of these, it will reinstate it here in your search box, and you just have to hit search again.
It used to work.
It's working. Yeah, it's working on mine.
Maybe
Probably
because you have
working
antino
on mine
installed.
too.
If you use the keyboard, if you type Unicode,
Yeah, I'm just talking about the displaying in this window. Yeah.
I think
So it might have to do with
in
having
Firefox it works.
In Firefox it works.
Not-
has to
Maybe
be
not
because you
not
have,
in my
yeah,
installed.
if you don't have antino, if you do have antino installed, it should work. But
Yeah.
I have it.
I have, but it doesn't show either.
Yeah,
it's a
so it might be a
Windows
Windows
thing.
thing, or
No,
yeah.
it
So
works on mine, though. I'm not using it.
generally, I should say if you're showing this to other people or away from home, the interface has antino embedded, which means that technically nobody should need to install antino. This should work wherever. It should work on your cell phone. But yeah, there are still maybe keys. Good check. Right, so these are kind of the simplest searches that we can do. You just search for an annotation there. I want translations that contain this and this. But you might want sequences of annotations or kind of combinations of annotations. This is where it gets a little bit more complicated. So I'll show you an example where we want to look for, say, personal pronoun copula sentences. So something like, it is I, or he is the one, something like that. Yeah? So you do something like a personal pronoun followed by a copula. And for this, you'll need the part of speech annotation. Now, there are 3 types of personal pronouns, or 4 with a possessive, and they all start with PER for pronoun personal, and the annotation is POS for part of speech. So POS equals PER will get you nothing, actually, because there are 3 subtypes, and now you must choose. PERS, which is subject, PERO, which is object pronoun, and PERI, which is the independent pronoun. And in cases like it is I, we want the independent pronoun, like anok or tof. That is PEPERI. And if we want it to be in a copular sentence, then we need the copula. That is POS equals cop. And there you'll notice one of them is red and one of them is purple. There's a reason for that. We'll see in a second.
So you put a space with no plus.
I put a space between them, and now you'll see that the interface is complaining. Mismatched input, pos. He's confused and he's giving us an X and telling us, oh no, this is not working. The reason is, as we will see in a moment, there can be multiple relationships between these things. The interface wants to know, what do you mean Papuri and Cop? One after the other, within 10 words of each other, at the same time as each other. So we'll see in a second that you can do at the same time. So there needs to be a relationship between these two things. And the relationship one after the other is expressed with the dot, like in Perl or PHP. And you need to space that out from the annotations. So pos equals paperi dot pos equals cop will give you an independent personal pronoun immediately followed by the copula. And yeah, we can again use a lot of corpora to demonstrate this construction. You're writing a Christomaphy, this is great. Or teaching in general. And this is what So actually found that we are inconsistent with copula bound group notation. So we need to fix some of these. Intokpe, gentokpe, gentokpe, shere, anokpe, anokpe pnute, and so on. And there are 138 of these. And maybe it's easier to look at the norm, then it's not as confusing. And then it also explains to you immediately what the red and the purple are. The red is the first thing you asked for, and the purple is the second thing you asked for. And in the results, you will see where red and purple are, namely in Tokpe. And you'll see that also in the annotation view. So if you go into your annotations, you'll see, oh yeah, red and purple. Those are the things I looked for. Number 1 was red and number 2 was purple. It is you, it is I. So that's that construction, but you can get the other ones here. Some Totenpe. And of course, you don't need to do this with parts of speech. You can also do this with norm. You can look for a sequence of 2 words. Just do norm.norm. That'll work too. And let me give you an example where you might want to have them in either order. So let's say you're interested in kind of specific semantic units. This is an example for a search for shere. Okay, so I'm looking for shere. And I'm interested in sons and daughters or boys and girls. So one of the things that you might want is to do shere and then somewhere afterwards shere. Now if you do it like this, it will never occur because it will never be shere immediately followed by shere. So now you can start specifying in what distance from each other you want these things. And you could say, well, you know, within 1 to 5 units. They need to be close. Then you can specify 1, 5 or any numbers that you want here and run that search. And you'll get these classics, tefshere, tefshere. Okay? We'll get these typical. So Abraham, our father, is full of these. Shemida loves sons and daughters. I'm sure Becky can tell you all about that.
The belongings of other people he likes to.
Yeah, and he's not that, he doesn't like people that much, maybe in general. But, so this is kind of a figure of speech he uses a lot. And of course, you can do multiple of these. So you can also demand that between them is maybe mun, and then dot maybe 1 to 3. I don't know how many units you can get between the min shade. You can only get 1 unit. And maybe I'm forgetting something. Maybe you can somehow manage to stick another morpheme between those 2 things. So I'm giving it 1 to 3. I don't think that'll give me any false positives. And then you only get the ones with min. So there was the tefshere, that's gone now. Now it's only the min shere, and so forth. You see some of them are fragmentary, but it's because the shere isn't. It's found all the same. And now you'll see that there's red, purple, and green. And you can't see it here because it's in bound group mode. But if I were to switch to norm, you'll suddenly see, oh yeah, the min was the purple thing, and shere is the green thing. There's all 3 of them. So shere, min, shere, and here they're red, purple, and green. Now in some contexts, you might not be interested in the order of items, and in that case, you should not use the dot, but the caret operator. This is not the same caret as the not that I specified before. This is something standing between 2 annotations. And this means the one before the other or the other way around. Okay, so it's an order oblivious operator. And it also has the same options, so you can do something like between 1 and 5 units in either order. And now you'll get shere with shere within 5 units or the other way around. So here's boys and girls, boys and girls. You can look when it'll be the other way around. Here's one, but it's in different sentences. You see? So here's a reversed one, and you'll notice you get purple red, because the second thing you specified is still the purple, even though it's appearing first in the text. It's still the second thing you look for. So it's purple red instead of red purple, and that makes it a bit easier to see also. It's the opposite way around. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about things not just being one after the other, but happening at the same time or overlapping each other. So
Before I forget, can I answer something? I'm putting a lot of these queries on Twitter. And the thing to know is that unless we change the name of the corpus, which we're trying not to do, the links will stay stable.
Yeah.
Even to queries.
this is generally true, especially if you're into online publications and doing websites incorporating ANNIS stuff. You can get a link to these exact search results, just copy paste that. That will always go. Where did my toolbar go? Something is happening. You can go to a brand new browser that doesn't know anything about this, put that link in, and bang, share it. Okay, so you can cite these URLs. Carrie's right. The only situation in which they would stop being available is if the corpora are not there or called different. Other than that, so this just gives ANNIS the name of the corpus and the query, and it runs the search. Right. So now about things happening at the same time. Unless there are questions, feel free to always interrupt with questions or unclear things. I just tend to go on otherwise. Yeah.
Will you eventually show how to search for lacuna?
I guess so. Yeah. So lacuna actually is nothing special. You may have seen in the example above that we have these brackets here. So in essence, to find one, you just need to look for a unit that contains that. And I think in some cases, in some of the corpora, we may have done away with that in the normalization, especially if we knew what the word was. So it's safest to look in the orig layer. If you're interested in the lacuna, you should probably look for orig. So orig equals, and you probably want the pattern search. And if it's the end of a lacuna that you're interested in, because you're on the right-hand side of a page, you should be looking for a closing bracket. Now you'll remember that we had this notation for characters within closing brackets, right? Like either an omicron or an omega. So if you use square brackets, the system thinks you are doing a special pattern search. In order to teach the system that you really mean to find an actual square bracket, you need to put a backslash before it. Okay, so it's dot star backslash closing bracket dot star. And this will show you lacunae at the left-hand side of a word. Okay, because there's something after the bracket. And so here you see, it's funny, you don't see it at all, right? It's as if there's no lacuna. That's because you're in norm mode and we looked in orig. If you switch to orig groups, you'll see that the alpha was actually reconstructed. It's missing. Here you see all the things that have been reconstructed. Actually, you should look at Sahidica. So in Sahidica, I'm not even exactly sure what the square brackets mean in Sahidica. Does anybody know what the square brackets mean in Sahidica? So there may be bits that were completed from another manuscript or something. I don't know exactly. So maybe leave out Sahidica. But if you have Shanutian, if you have the canons, if you have something from the canons, you're looking at the Shanuta stuff. Anything but Sahidica should mean lacuna. In Sahidica, I don't guarantee that it means lacuna. I don't exactly know what it means. But here this is a missing key and then key. And if you want to see how that spreads out in lines, you should look at the annotations, and you can also search for that. So this was the end of line 16. You can see here that this is column 2, so it's the right-hand column. And it's line number 16 on the folio. And the key of an key is missing, but the transcriber could tell that it should be, maybe by context. So this is line 16 in column 2, and it's missing the key of an N key. And that's what I meant the other day by looking at your things. If you have 2 lines, I'll actually show a bit later on in about 4 queries, if I have time, 3 queries, I'll try to speed it up, how to do queries on the line breaks to see where something is within the line. So I'll get back to that. But now I wanted to do overlapping annotations. So you might be interested in 2 things happening at the same time. Let me give you an example of that. There is a part of speech for proper nouns, which is also a great way of finding biblical citations if you want, because they often have so-and-so said or they are mentioned in the. So the proper nouns are often very interesting if you're looking at intertextuality. They're typically a good way of finding those. And that's n prop, noun proper. N is just a normal noun, and n prop is a proper noun. And you can do proper nouns that are Greek by adding lang equals Greek. And you can make sure that they're happening at the same time. Now, dot would have meant give me a proper noun followed by a Greek word. This will be something like shenute de. Yeah, that would be followed by. If you want them happening at the same time, you need to do underscore equals underscore. And that means they cover the same space in the text. Okay, so this is supposed to graphically evoke they are the same in terms of what they cover. That's kind of the graphics of that particular operator. And this means a proper noun that is also Greek. And if you look for that in the apophthegmata, for instance, you'll get all the Greek named fathers. Theophilus and Antonius and Doulos and Bessarion and Basimos and Theodorus and Hermes. That's actually the name of a river, I think. Oh no, that's Theodorus. There's some river names. So that's a way of getting the Greek proper nouns.
In Egypt, there should be only one.
No, so there's actually another. There must be a branch of the Nile, but there is some text where they talk about a river called the Pomegranate, I think, and there's this whole. So there's a text.
Okay, let's say one prominent.
When you have one prominent river, you start naming parts of it. That's what people do. Yeah, now I wanted to get to the line break query. So here's a way of getting, for instance, original units that are split across lines. So there is the line break annotation that you saw here, which is LBN, the line break number. And LBN, you might be interested in looking for, say, 2 lines. This is a sequence of 2 consecutive lines. This will just get you every pair of lines in the corpus. LBN.LBN. Now you could also enter a number equals, well, something, or you could look, I'm looking for only line number 4. But if you don't know what line you're looking for, you don't care, you could either do LBN equals dot star, anything, or you could just write, that is a synonym for LBN. If you don't put a value, it means I just want there to be such an annotation. I don't care what its value is. So 2 consecutive LBN annotations. And now I'm going to make this annotation overlap with an orig word. And you do that with the operator underscore O underscore for overlap. And it's overlapping an orig unit. And now you will see what I've said is there are 2 consecutive lines, and line number 2 overlaps the orig. But I'm looking for a word that's spanned across 2 lines. So I wanted to also overlap the first one. But I can't express that. I can't put another underscore O underscore between them because there's nowhere to put it. So this gets you to a more advanced feature of the query language that you might not want to memorize yet, but if you want to know that it's possible, it is. The way to do this is you put in an ampersand, and now you're adding an additional condition. Namely that you remember the first thing we asked for, the LBN, the red thing, that's #1. That's the first thing we asked for, number 1. Again, the overlap operator. And this time it should overlap number 3. So what this query is saying is I'm looking for 3 things, red, purple, and green. LBN, LBN, and orig. I've already told you the relationship between LBN number 1 and LBN number 2. It's the dot. They should be one after the other. I'll also tell you that the orig should overlap the second one. But now I also want the orig to overlap the first one, and I have no way of expressing that. So I'm saying take the first one and take the third one and put an overlap between them as well. An extra condition. So you're kind of re-mentioning number 1 and number 3. So number 1 is this one, number 3 is this one. It's kind of a more complex query. And you can go to, say, Abraham our father and search for that. And you will see all these red and purple things, which make little sense. But if you look at the annotation grid, you will see exactly what's happening. It is, number 3 is the orig, so it's the green one, and you found kleronomy. And kleronomy is on the line break between line number 1 and line number 2 of column 1 of page XL93. Okay, so you can see a kleronomy, and here you can see the split between lines. You can see that it spans the 2 lines. And this one is red because that's the first line I looked for. This is blue, green, purple. The second one I looked for, and this is green, which is the word that is spanned between 2 lines. So you can really get configurations like give me 2 consecutive lines that both end in a lacuna and that the letters before are this and this or something like that. And then you can really get to, a piece that would match a certain matching piece. That's kind of the idea. That's what I meant in Mary's talk. Okay, our time is almost up. I wanted to show you some very brief things. I think I'll skip some of the more complicated stuff. I still want to show you the frequencies and exports, so we'll do that briefly. There is a frequencies analysis in the system. You can also export the stuff and do your own analysis in R or whatever, but if you want a quick answer to some question, for instance, let's say you want all the Greek words in Abraham our father and you want to know their frequencies. So you do lang equals Greek. You select Abraham our father, and now you could search for them, and you could see that there are 345 of them, including the Ds. But there's no need to search actually, so you wouldn't have had to search. You can just go straight onto here, more, frequency analysis. And remember, you don't need to do the search first. You can go straight to frequency analysis. Now, if I perform frequency analysis now, it will tell me that it's doing the frequency analysis of the annotation lang that I searched for. This sounds like it's going to be very exciting, but it's not. It will look like this. There are 345 cases of Greek, because the different values of the query lang equals Greek are Greek, 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 and Greek. It's only Greek. So what I actually meant, and this takes a little while to realize, is I meant lang equals Greek overlaps or has the exact same coverage as norm equals anything. So you can do norm equals dot star or just norm, which is the same. And now it will tell me that it will do a frequency breakdown for lang equals Greek and norm. I can do that, but in fact it's redundant. If I do that, you'll see that it will tally all the possible combinations. So for Greek and kata, there's 35. For Greek and prophetes, there's 29. But the Greek is redundant. They're all Greek. I didn't need to know that they're Greek. So I can go on new analysis and I can delete this one and just give me the breakdown for the norm. Okay. So the whole query that it was basing this on is still here, but the output that I want is only give me the different counts for the different norms. That's all I care about. So you perform the frequency analysis and now it just says norm. Sorry, this is a bit tiny on the projector. But you can see the list here actually. Also, if you press a column, it will jump to that on the list. So this is Allah, 17, Rafe. Yeah.
Since we have tagged words for language origin back to like the original language from which the word came, so
This
like Greco-Hebrew words we tag as Hebrew. So if I wanted to find all those foreign words, including Latin, all loan words, would I do lang equals / dot star or something like that?
Yeah. You can either choose a subset. You can say I want only, or in regular expressions is the vertical line. You can do Greek or Latin, that will work. If you want absolutely all of them, then you can either do dot star or simply lang norm. Because there is no lang annotation unless it's foreign. There's no lang equals Coptic. It only appears if it's not Coptic. And what Carrie says is true. So we went back and forth about this, and we're still not entirely sure. That's something for the discussion also. Currently, we tag the language of origin for each word, going back as far as possible. So if it's a Greco-Hebrew word, we tag it as Hebrew, funnily enough, even though clearly for the Copts, if at all, it was a Greek word, and possibly they didn't even notice it was a Greek word. But what we do for research purposes is we go back as far as we can. So a name like Joseph is tagged as Hebrew, even though it's Yosef with a phi. It's like not. So the reason we did this is because it's lossless. You can still look for lang. If you just look for lang or lang equals dot star, you'll get all of Greek or whatever. But if you want to be more specific, so let's take the apophthegms, have all of them. I think you can do lang equals Latin. You'll see what we tagged as Latin, but many of you will find that this is nonsense. So this is collegion. Yeah, collegion is a Greece-sized form of collegium with an M. So yes, it looks like it's Greek, but we tagged it Latin. If you want to find everything, just do lang. And there were a lot of kind of questionable satanas we did as Hebrew, because if you take it back as far as possible, it is more Hebrew than it is Greek. So if you do the frequency analysis on lang, you'll get the proportions of languages. This is now yes sensible. Now you'll get that. Oh wait, I didn't update that. You should, if you change something, automatic mode will go off, and if you wanted to auto update from the query, you need to turn on automatic mode again, and then it updates it to be lang. And now it says that in the apophthegms, it's Greek, Hebrew, and just 2 Latin. Okay, so you can see in Abraham our father, it could be probably be all the biblical Hebrew names. They'll probably look a bit different. Oh yeah, it's Greek and Hebrew, no Latin, and a lot more Hebrew. These are probably the proper names of all the biblical figures that he talks about. And if you want to know what those units were, you're still not compelled to include lang in your analysis. You could still just be interested in the norm, even though lang has multiple values now. You could still delete the lang, and now you'll get the frequencies for foreign words in Abraham our father, namely kata, de, Jesus, which we probably also tagged as Hebrew, and so on.
You find out that the Latin is really rare.
Well, words that are ultimately of Latin origin.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you should, if you understand what's annotated, I think you can make good use of it. Just don't take it to mean that we are of the opinion that Copts were aware that they were using it. That's not the point. But yeah, we wanted to discuss that later.
Yeah.
So the last thing to show you, and I'm starting to go over time here, is the export.
It's fine.
So how to export results for processing with other programs. If you go on the more, there's also the export function. And much like the frequency analysis, in order to export, you do not need to run a query. You just need to type the query. Okay, that's double. You can also do the query to see what you're getting, but the export will simply run it again. So there's no need for you to run the query before you export. So let me give you a really, so a simple example is you want to look for a certain type of sentence and you just want to read all the sentences for your reading entertainment. To do this, you can use the simple text exporter. The simple text exporter is the simplest of all. It just outputs the search results. It's not very useful. So let's say I'm interested in translations that contain the word. What do we have? Brother is okay, I guess. It doesn't matter. Son, daughter, whatever you're interested in. So here's the brother again. Now you'll notice that I say translations containing brother, but I'm actually going to get the Coptic result because the simple text exporter just gives you what the concordance gives you. So it's probably also a good idea. Translations are whole sentences, so it's probably a good idea to put context on 0. If you don't, you will also get the preceding and following 5 words, which is fine. And now you do perform export. Well, this is just, whatever. You can also do multiple perform and download. So once it's done, you need to press the download to get the file. It's on the server. And there were only 4 of these. Yeah, so alaina mute eroten je nasneo avona shbe'er. Okay, so it's brothers and friends. So you just get the text. Now this is a fairly unspectacular export. Maybe a more interesting one to use is the so-called grid exporter. And the grid exporter allows you to export any annotations that you want. By default, it will give you absolutely all annotations. So if you do it like this and don't say anything, the grid exporter will get you this output, which is overwhelming, I would say. For result number 1, or 0, as it calls it, we should probably rename this to 1. It starts counting at 0 currently. It will tell you that this is from column 1, that the norms were ala, e, na, mute, eroten, je, blah, blah, blah. That the original was ala, e, na, with a diaresis above the I. It tells you absolutely everything it knows about these results. And another thing that it tells you is where every annotation was applied, which is good if you want this to be machine processable. So for instance, there was a lang Greek in here, and namely it was between units 1 and 2, which is these Allah here. And Allah gets 2 units because there's a line break between them, and you wouldn't be able to express where the line breaks are unless you split it up into 2 units. So that's what these crazy numbers are doing. Now this is massive overkill. You usually don't want this. You usually probably just wanted the norm in the translation, say. And you can do that. To do that, you just tell it what you want to export into annotation keys. You say, well, I want to see the norm group, comma, and I want the translation. If you do that, it will get you what I just said, and still with the numbers. And now you have just the norm groups, ala, enamute, eroten, benasneo, avo, nashbe'el. Okay, just these. And again, it tells you that these were applied to segments 1 till 2 and 3 to 7. And you can use it to match it up to the other annotation there, which applied between 1 and 17. So starting at ala and ending at the period. You might think that the numbers are irritating. You're probably right for many purposes. They're mainly for machine actionable stuff. To turn them off, go into parameters and type numbers equals false. If you do that, you'll get something that's more like the usable thing you probably intended, which is for every result, just the sentence in its translation.
We can't see, well, I can't see the Coptic. And I don't think Frederick can.
Yeah, me either. In the notepad.
Oh,
In the Notepad, yeah. So Notepad++ can use any font utility. Just go into Settings, Font, Antino, and you're done. That's just the editor. Yeah, it's here. I'm also using Windows. So Settings, Preferences.
I have no settings.
You have settings. What program are you using?
I think it's text. Let me see. It's either Notepad or Notepad.
So most of them will have some sort of font.
You could have format if you're in Notepad.
Okay.
Settings.
And then if you have Intune installed, you should go.
I forgot where it is there because there's so many settings. Editing. Anybody remember where font is by default? Settings. Okay, I forget, but as you notice, actually my font is Antino, so there is somewhere you can set it. I just cannot remember for it right now. It's probably not worth wasting our time finding it, but it's here. You can set Antino to be your font. Or you can just copy paste it into Word and do it there if you want. If it's quicker for you, just copy paste it into Word and do font Antino. That'll work too. Right, so that's the grid exporter. And the last exporter I wanted to show you is the Weka exporter, which for large result sets is also much faster. And this exporter doesn't export sentences. It exports just the things you are looking for. So number 1 and number 2 and number 3. So it's good for getting kind of tabular results that you want to count later. So for instance, what would be a good thing to look at? I mean, a really simple example is you want all verbs in Shenouda. You select your Shenouda corpora, do pos equals v, and then do Weka exporter. All this becomes irrelevant. Whoop. All of this becomes irrelevant. And the context is also ignored for Weka. And if you press download, you'll see you get this huge table. Just malista, week, day, week, pada, week. Wait, white week? Oh, I hit back. I think I hit back on the history. Sorry, I meant to do pos equals v. Oh, actually, this is a bad example. So this will only get you, surprise, surprise, if you have a look at this. Well, it gets you the text covered by the v. So you see also Kleronomy with a space here because it was split. But you probably wanted to get pos equals v covers a norm because you want the norm, not the thematic. So if you do pos equals v in the norm, it will get you another column to that. And now you'll get that it was a verb and the norm. The last column is now norm. And at the top, it tells you what's every column. So the columns are an ID, which is uninteresting, the span of text, the part of speech, the idea of the second thing, the span of text that it covers, and norm. The last thing is norm. And this is what you're interested in. And it's a comma-separated values kind of format. I guess the v is boring because it's always v. But if you do just different kinds of verb, you might get more interesting results. So if you do that, you'll also get variation in terms of vstat for the stative and imperative. So here, O, vstat, diplomatic with a funny apostrophe and a dot, and normalized without. And it's a vstat. And now this is a table, so that's machine actionable. If you want to do some sort of summary activities on that, you can do that. And with that, I'm way over time, so I'll probably quit at this point, unless you have questions, which I'm very happy to answer either right now or also later. Yeah.
Is there any way to export metadata information
Yes.
and all of that?
There is. So you can actually get instructions. So that's typically what you
Like if you want to know
which.
like, I mean, you've got all these sentences, and then you're like, oh, is this from YA59, MONB
Yes.
YA519, or is this from, Codex ZC or whatever?
Absolutely. So and if you go on, actually everything I said just now is hopefully written in the question mark here. So this is an example from the grid exporter, which allows you to do metadata. You hit the question mark, it tells you a little bit about it, and then it tells you about the parameters. And you can enter meta keys, which are comma separated. So we'll do that right away. And now I want to export all focalizing conversions used by Shenouda. CFOC for converter focalizing. Grid exporter, give me 5 plus minus context. Give me the norm group.
The page.
That's a metadata. Oh, no,
No.
the page is not a metadata datum. Yeah, so if you want the page, you'll need to do pb_xml_id. That's what it's called in the annotation grid. So this is arcane to remember, but if you run the query, you'll immediately see, oh, let's see what I want from this. I want the page, and it was called this. I want the norm group, and it's called this. So you can just look into a grid and figure out what the things are called. Go back to your export, put those in. You want the norm group and the pb_xml ID. You want numbers equals false, and semicolon for another instruction. You want meta keys equals ms name. So to know it's called ms name, go into the I button, look at your documents, and see that they have something called ms name. That's where I got that from. And you put that into the meta keys. And again, this is not stuff you need to memorize. It says this here. So here, meta keys, comma separated list of all metadata to include in the result. It gives you an example. You export that.
You also really don't need to remember it because we will have this on YouTube forever, so you can go review it.
Yes. And for some reason, my numbers equals, this didn't work. Hang on. Let's have done something. Numbers equals false. Meta key. You give it a order or something. MS name. Embarrassing. So here, MS name on white A, pb_xml ID so-and-so. And I'm fairly sure you can put a semicolon and add the numbers equals false. Maybe it has to be in this order.
Yeah, I forgot we put the YA in the page number. That was smart of us.
This is a bug. So you're supposedly, please write down semicolon to separate if you want both no numbers and metadata. That's supposed to work. So right now it seems that you cannot both shut off the numbers and do the metadata, but that's just so if you do meta keys, you'll see the MS name here on the third chart. So it appears that in Abraham orthogonal it only uses 2 focalizers. Yeah, if you look at Besa, he's very, very fond of it. It's much less text, and yeah, Besa likes his focalizing conversions. It's you I'm talking to. So, yeah, other questions?
Yeah, my notepad still isn't showing me anything in Coptic. I can't
Okay.
find anything that says font. So.
I'll figure it out with you together. There's definitely a way.
Maybe I didn't get it. Where is regular expression search explained on the website?
So regular expressions actually have nothing to do with ANNIS. They're a huge standard, and you can find excellent documentation on regular expressions.
This is called ANNIS. These,
regular expressions have nothing to do with ANNIS.
Yeah.
They're a much more general
This is nothing
standard.
with, like SQL. Or,
Yeah, so regular expressions, I think there's, yeah, this site has it like in extreme detail. Yeah, it goes on into extremely elaborate patterns that you do if you want to match things that look like phone numbers and addresses and stuff like that. So yeah, I need to think a little bit what would be the best entry level kind of, not too much all at once.
I think that, yeah, for many users, to learn these ANNIS syntax.
The ANNIS syntax is not regular expressions. The ANNIS
No,
syntax
I
is
know.
special.
Do you have it on your website? Or
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
take them to the box of sample, which we need to update, but
Oh yeah, so there are two things. One is example queries for Scriptorium, which are under Corpora. And you can just, searching the Corpora example queries, click here for the example queries, and it'll give you some more examples.
Okay.
And about ANNIS in general, there's the ANNIS website.
so the idea is if you want to click on like one of those examples, and then maybe you might want to change the corpus, or then you can like start playing around and editing and changing.
There's a more elaborate introduction to the ANNIS query language, and there's also the user guide here. So this is ANNIS-tools.org, and there's an introduction to ANNIS query language, and there's the user guide for ANNIS. Although I have to admit, a lot of these have nothing to do with Coptic, so I don't know if it's maybe overkill, but it explains the principles. These things like back reference with the hash pound key 1 and how exactly they work and all the options, or how to do OR. I skipped some things, so you can find those there. And all the different operators. There are many more operators.
And you can also email us, and we can add, if you email us and say, this is what I want to do, I don't know how to do it, we can tell you, and then we can also add that as an example to our website so that other people can see more examples. So feel free if you want to email some, you know.
Yeah. Just for your reference, the kind of things you can do one annotation includes another one, so it can be smaller. One overlaps, starts at the same position, so left align is _L_, right align means they end at the same position. Value identity. You can also do negative search, which I kind of skipped. So you can look for maybe something that can be a noun and a verb often in Coptic. Anybody have something that is often used as a noun and a verb?
Shuttle.
Charge, excellent. So you can do plus not equals, verb overlaps, norm equals. Charge, and the not is expressed by an exclamation. That's maybe worth mentioning. I forgot about that. So not not equals. This is charge, not a verb. Okay, in this case, it's also trivial because you could have just looked for a noun. But in some cases, it's interesting to do, but I don't want this. Yeah, so you can nu charge, and charge. So you can do negative searches. Yeah, so if you're interested in kind of the intricacies of the query language syntax, there's a quick tutorial here, and there's the big user guide under documentation, which is like 30, 40 pages, I think. And it has examples from other corpus, so from a German corpus currently, and we're going to switch it to be an English corpus soon, but it's not going to be about Coptic. So. I mean, ANNIS is actually not developed particularly for Coptic.
So our experience with the TLA was because then this is based on the lexicon, search, lexicon, text, link. And the more users have to learn some syntax, the less they are interested in this. I mean, the general, Egyptologists especially.
Yeah, I mean, that led to us doing a lot of things in terms of just putting the documents out there. That was also something I had to learn in this project, was that people would really like to be able to just click, I want to read, not because of Fox Parks.
Yeah. And
I want just to look at it in some format, or just want to see.
Uh-oh.
It's not good.
That's not good.
Interesting. Is it all there?
No, it should be, but I'll check.
Is it just the Fox, or is it?
I don't know.
Firefox box.
It's Firefox, not because of Firefox. Okay, so base says there. But just the people want to control F through things and just read them the way they were laid out. And so we started putting stuff out just like that. Yeah. So the corner of linguistics where I come from, we're never interested in just looking at the whole document. We just wanted search results. So this just took some designing. So we did build some special things in for the Coptic project. But yeah, absolutely, it would be great to have more clickable stuff, and linking to dictionaries would be great. So we are working on lemmatization. And once that's done, we'll be in a position to hyperlink to a dictionary with more information about each word. That'd be great.
We will feed you with Old Testament text.
Excellent.
In the course of this year.
That'd be great.
I mean, you need more corpus text.
Yes.
Please.
The choice is not enough to explore the tools.
So the better the automatic tools get, the more feasible it is to just put the automatic stuff up there. And then you give me the Old Testament, it gets tagged within a minute, and put it online, and you have all these options. It's not as good as the manual corporate view. I mean, I kind of avoided Sahidica in these examples to not have too much discussion. Oh, it made a funny mistake. But of course, it's about 95% accurate, which is a lot, but also full of mistakes. But you have all these options. So if you're looking for grammatical,
it's also good for us. Some of the questions.
There are some questions that you won't be able to answer, such as things that require parts of speech without automatic analysis, because we don't have the resources to manually tag 200,000 words. In fact, before I did this, I didn't know that Sahidica is about 200,000 words. because there was no automatic segmentation. It's the only way to know how many words there are even in this thing is to run the automatic token. There's no other answer to this question. Okay, so thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, you can always email me or
Thank you. Yeah, and let's take a break.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's take
Rather than
10 to 15-minute break. Yeah.
I'm self-directed.